Good evening, and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Joining me, per the usual, is the ninja Dr. Jason Pittman. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about leadership and the intersection of the minimum wage. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Ford, and this is Echelon Orchid.
Guess who's back?
The ninja.
The Shogun.
About time. I was able to convince you to start dressing up for the show.
Dude, I taught myself how to do a half Windsor.
Nice. I prefer, funny enough, because many people like to do the full Windsor. I mean, Oriental knot. I like the Oriental knot.
I like that, man. I do. For a long time, for the longest time, I didn't wear ties.
Yeah.
But as you know, I think we talked about this on This Life in Tech. I decided, look, man, I got a fresh start at High Point University. Let me try something and see how people react to it. A little social experiment, as it were. And I liked it. I actually like it now. I like the ritual of it. I like the reaction. And, as our friend TK once said, if all I got to do is wear a tie to get people to listen to me, then come on, man, that's a small ask, right?
Yeah.
And so for the longest time, I did the most simplest, the forehand knot. And, from powerlifting, I got a wide frame. And on some shirts, as you know, they spread out, and that's where you need a wide knot. And I'm like, hey, man, I taught myself how to tie a tie watching YouTube. Let me figure out another knot via YouTube. Perfect.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was probably because back in my government consulting, basically, and probably in every consulting, everyone would do the full Windsor because it was the big, huge knot and wide, and I'm kind of like, there's got to be other knots out there. And the full Windsor's a pain in the ass to tie, to be honest, quite honest. Like it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You need a super long tie. And so I was like, all right, there's got to be something else out there. And so I came across the Oriental knot, and I was like, oh, I got to dig this, right? It still is wide, but it's a little bit flatter. Instead of having the big knot, it's flat and wide. I'm like, I really kind of dig this. Now it's been so damn long since I've tied a tie. I wonder if I could do it right now. Because at the credit union, we went to a more business casual 18 months ago, and all I did was, all right, well, fine, I just won't wear a tie, and so I started, wearing a lot more vests and handkerchiefs, still stuff to, make it pop, but because I like I enjoy the finer clothing. I mean, someone had to teach Mystic Mac,
right? Well, the thing is, for me, is at this point, man, I'm the only person in the entire School of Engineering that wears a tie. And what I found for me, this is the balance sometimes of self-leadership, as it were, is I have a very intimate, informal style in the classroom. And I noticed over time that was creating too much of a blur between the lines, right? Especially because the way I was dressing. I've always been a jeans and t-shirt dude because, startups, right? And so I thought, let me just try this as an experiment, and I found that I can still have that very intimate, very informal professorial style. But if I dress this way, it creates enough of a psychological boundary that people still react to it. Right? It has a gravitas to it. And I actually enjoy it. It's not that hard. I enjoy the ritual of it, and let's just get on with it.
Well, you know this better than I. Humans are very ritualistic. We like consistent, repetitive things. It makes us in many ways feel safe and comfortable. And that's why many people have a routine. And the more of a routine you have, the more comfortable you become. But then there's the danger of becoming too comfortable, because then you become somewhat complacent, and so you got to change it up a little bit every once in a while.
Like, for instance, man, this is the perfect example of it, because you've been around me for a long time, more than pretty much anybody else I talk to regularly. Last night I was looking at the photos from the time I lived in Maryland, and of course I had a very long wizard beard.
Oh yeah.
And I was explaining to baby Pittman what that was, and I showed her the pictures, and I didn't shave today. we'll see if I can stand it. It's a bit more gray now than it was, 10 years ago. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
because funny enough, for whatever reason, you only had gray like right in the middle.
Right down the middle, man. A little strip. A little strip. Funny enough, man, like my hair on my head hasn't really gone more gray substantially, but the beard, man. Hey,
Oh,
what are you gonna do?
that's where all of mine is. I didn't have any in my head. I just happen to prefer to shave. It's very freeing. I didn't think Joe Rogan was going to be right as to how freeing it is, but it really is.
It is, man. There's definitely times because during that period I was cutting my own hair because I didn't have anybody and I didn't have much money because I had a house in California with a wife in California and I had my place in Maryland and all that jazz. And I was just trying to make things simple so I could work and not worry about things. And I just cut my own hair. There's times where I think about it. I'm like, if Mrs. Pittman wasn't cutting my hair now, I probably would have started shaving it again.
I just, this way, because I kind of like wearing the hats, I kind of, I enjoy, and then I don't have to worry about my hair being all messed up and it's just easy.
Well, and you were operating a motorcycle quite a bit for a while.
Yeah.
When I was cycling on the cycling teams and stuff, it just having hair got in the way of having a helmet on.
It does. I mean, if I hadn't gone to New York, I would probably still be riding quite a bit. I mean, I love motorcycles, but probably my lifestyle today doesn't necessarily fit with a motorcycle, and you got to adapt. So, I'll get some. Yeah, I might go back and get another like mid '90s Toyota MR2 T-top because those things were just, I had one, did a little SCCA with it. That was fun. Something that I could do, convertible or T-top, or my all-time favorite is the Nissan 280Z.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had an MR2. I had an MR2, but yeah. I had the Spider mid-engine 2000s model.
Yeah, so I had a 1994. Yeah. So I bought it off of eBay.
Fucking eBay, dude.
I did. I bought it off of eBay for like, I'm going to say it was like $3,000. And I drove that thing almost every day when I didn't have to worry about picking up the kids. Because, I mean, there's no back seat. I mean, even though it was a 2+2, I don't know what that +2 was, but I barely could fit a bag back there.
2 sack lunches, dude.
Yeah, maybe, right? So I drove that thing every day from Annapolis, Maryland to Reston, Virginia. And the miles aren't that long. It just so happens to be if you get caught in that DC traffic. So I would typically leave the house like at 6 a.m. and I would have like our stand-up meetings. We would go to Greenberry's. Love Greenberry's coffee. I don't even know if it still exists out that way, but I love Greenberry's coffee. And how all that came about was, when we were standing up Homeland, we just tried to, because you didn't really have Google the way it is today. I mean, we're talking, this is 2003, folks. That's 18 years ago. Imagine that. 2001 happened 20 years ago. So this 9/11 will be the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. And so the analytics weren't really, we were like, I wonder how many Starbucks there are in a 5-mile radius. Now,
the Starbucks index.
Yeah. I have no idea, but we would always have our like kind of daily stand-ups at, over coffee. Sometimes there'd be 10 people there. Sometimes there'd be 20 people there. Who knows? So we wanted to try to figure out, and there was, I want to say something like easily there was 30 Starbucks. And we went to all of them until I found Greenberry's. So there is right off of the Reston Parkway, the Toll Road, Reston Parkway, I think is what it was called. There's a Home Depot. I had to go over to Home Depot because I needed Cat 6 cable. We were out. I needed it. I got to make some cables because we got runs we got to do in the data center. And I'm like, I'm going to go get a coffee. Oh, what's this Greenberry's? Went in there and I'm like, oh, this is great. So I sent out a note out to my team and said, we're no longer going to Starbucks. I don't really care how many there are left in the area. Greenberry's it is.
I had a canary yellow MR2 Spider until I wrapped it around a fire hydrant.
So my buddy Kevin, I don't know if you ever actually met Kevin.
No, but I feel like I have because you talk about him so much.
Right. He had a canary yellow Honda S2000 when we worked at Homeland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so I mean, very, very similar in terms of that, the the displacement and stuff like that on those cars. So much fun.
Well, I had the MR2 and it was mid-engine, and then I had an Audi TT, which I was kind of scared to drive. Beautiful car, dude. Beautiful engineering. I was scared to drive it because of that crash. I didn't get hurt. The car got destroyed, but I went to work on time. Didn't bother me. And then I got the Porsche limited edition Spyder Boxster S. And then I learned what a computer can control and traction, and I didn't have a problem driving it.
Oh, dude, it's fabulous.
Yeah, it is, dude.
Fabulous. So
anyway,
I've been having a number of different, Twitter conversations out there. And, I don't know about you, but I really love it when someone tells me I don't understand. Like that, when someone says, you just don't understand. I really want to go, no, I very well understand. You just happen to not be making a very good point. And a lot of these want to come with these economic theories on why the minimum wage needs to be raised. And, so I'll make sure I separate these two things, because I think when people hear that I don't believe in the minimum wage, and I think it should be lower, if not stay exactly where it's at, separate than what I believe compensation should be. Mm-hmm. And many only want to look either through ignorance or they choose not to look at the full equation. Your salary is just one piece of compensation. There's also another, 7.65% that the employer pays on top of that for your Medicare future and your Social Security benefits. And then there's health insurance. There's workers' comp insurance. There's quite a bit more that are involved in that. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, if I were starting a new company today that was in the service industry, let's say it's a restaurant, I need to pick what type of restaurant do I want to be? Do I want to be high turnover, like fast food? Do I want to be a cafe style? Do I want to be family dining? Do I want to be fine dining? Okay. Now, to me, in my mind, if I were to do this, it would be fine dining, which means the number one thing that I need to have is the most well-trained and best service staff you can possibly get. So how am I going to go and get them? I'm going to have to pay them more than what they're making today at their current establishments, right? I am going to pay above market value because I want fine dining, and I need to, when people come in, they need to have the best experience they could possibly have. If I were to say I want fast food, then I don't want to necessarily, I don't need to necessarily pay top dollar. Everything comes back down to what it is that you're looking to do. But I believe in paying people fair market value. And sometimes I think people confuse that. And I think they confuse minimum wage with living wage. And I'm kind of this point of the opinion that a living wage is likely necessary in many circumstances, but that is subsidized by the government. So if the market, in whatever case, because I'm a small business, let's define small business in multiple tiers. Let's say you're starting up less than 100 employees, less than 250, less than 500, less than 1,000. You're able to get X amount of subsidization from the state and federal government. So this way, because what's funny is that living wage is roughly just below $17 an hour right now, from what for a person. For a family of four, you need two people making $17 an hour, which comes to roughly $68,000 a year from a living wage. Yeah. Quick
interjection, because this is something else people don't distinguish. In which state?
Well, right. This is average across.
Sure.
Right. Everything varies. Like if you are in I can't think of a poor city in Alabama is going to be much different than if I'm living in San Francisco, California.
So can we agree at this point to some degree, this is a good argument for why this should be a state level decision, not a federal level decision?
100%, 100%. Right. And that's why I think there's a combination of some of the subsidies. So anyway, where I just want people to understand that I am absolutely for paying people, what their market value is. Not everything has a market value of $15 an hour.
Agreed. Well, and I'll tell the audience from my perspective, having worked in quick service, fast food on the tech side, but my wife has worked in that since she was a kid. That was her first job, was in a fast food restaurant, and she got all the way up to being a software engineer, QA analyst. Okay. And so I kind of understand the market. The only reason that human beings in any fast food restaurant haven't been replaced by pure robotic automation is because the people that are customers of those restaurants won't visit it unless they can deal with a human being, even if it's just placing your order. That's it. And that industry has known how to do that for the better part of a decade.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, and we're starting to see a lot more of these kiosks, especially in malls, in airports, for them to be able to do their ordering through there. Even more so because of not utilizing air travel recently in the rest areas. They're having them because of how fast they need to turn it out, because they need more people focused on making the food rather than taking the order. And so everything comes back down to supply chain. Right? Yep. Where's my bottleneck? Is the bottleneck in the ordering? Is the bottleneck in the making?
You want a little piece of trivia?
Let's hear it. What do you got?
Here's the trivia for EchelonOrchid's audience. Mrs. Pittman was the original order taker in the nation's first prototype of remote order taking. So a decade, 15 years ago, Hardee's prototyped a solution where
is it Carl's Jr. is the parent, or is it Hardee's the parent?
Oh, that's a dirty business, my friend. I'm in the South, so I have to say Hardee's. Okay. And so what they 15 years ago knew that the future eventually was going to be you place your order to drive-through, and that connects you to a call center in the Philippines. And the only reason that didn't take off, as you can guess, the accent. Quick story. The whole reason why, speaking of Carl's Jr., Carl Karcher bought Hardee's, okay? And Carl Karcher owned a series of Mexican restaurants called Red Burrito.
Pretty sure they also owned Roy Rogers.
They did. That's a true story. And there was two of them. They also owned La Salsa, which had a restaurant in Las Vegas, which was glorious because it was the only fast food place that sold beer. But nonetheless, I digress. Red Burrito had a companion in Hardee's called Green Burrito. And they had to rename it because nobody in the mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and the South understood that green meant verde sauce. They thought green meant mold. That's a true story. I'm not making it up, dude.
I absolutely believe you. So of course I bring up him, as most people do, that minimum wage and fast food workers, and they think that all of a sudden we're just putting down people that work in fast food. And they'll go to say, have you ever worked in fast food? You don't know how difficult that is. Actually, as a matter of fact, I have.
Yeah.
Okay. I was a manager at a Wendy's, and I didn't make $15 an hour as a manager at Wendy's. But I made decent money for someone, right out of high school. I was making like 24 grand a year, which is roughly $12 an hour. But here's the thing. And when you get to that, store managers are compensated also based on minimizing waste.
Yes.
And here's the dirty trick that this is why you don't trust anyone. This is where, before I got into cybersecurity, to learn to not trust anyone. So during shift change, one manager, the current manager, has to walk through with the manager taking over the food inventory.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yes.
If you happen to be working fast food or a restaurant, count that stuff yourself. Weigh it.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times as I started, looking at things, because as starting off as a manager, a lot of my time managing was the night shift, the come in midway through dinner, go all the way through till close. These dirty SOBs would put water into it's not a milkshake machine, the frosty machine. Yeah,
dude, they'll turn down the syrup on the soda machines. I don't know if anybody knows the story of how Mrs. Pittman and I met. We met working on a project building an inventory management system. I was leading the development team. She was doing the QA analyst from the restaurant side. And sure enough, man, some store was complaining about this newfangled technology we made them use, and it's wrong. My inventory count's wrong. No, you have a cook selling cheeseburgers out the back door every night. And I know that because the system's correct, and I looked at the footage.
And here's another little thing they would do. This is why electronic funds are so amazing. Prior to that, in the dirty use of money, if you saw so I don't remember the exact. So let's go quarter. So there's 4 coins, okay, but there's either 5 or 6 trays for the coins, okay. You start seeing pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters showing up on the left. That's how much money that they can take from the till before they turn over the register, because they know when you order a junior bacon cheeseburger, a small fry, and a small soda, it's $3.14.
We call that the scoop and flip, because you scoop it out of the tray and flip it into your pocket.
Yep. So there was a lot of things I saw. I digress. But I wanted to get people to understand that so this is why leadership matters when it comes to wage, right? Matters to compensation. The first thing is you have to, you need to explain the total compensation. Does it matter what your top end is or what you're taking home? To me, it's my take home. Now, I'm not, and this is why I absolutely believe that we should do away from minimum wage altogether, because as someone in the positive leadership, I have an advantage. Because if you are someone that is cutthroat and looking to keep people down, and you want to constantly put your thumb on them, not invest in them, not train them, not knowing that they're going to leave you, I win, because I will do that, because I want the best service. And so if you force a minimum wage, I lose my competitive advantage as a small business owner. Because I'm not looking to pinch pennies. I'm looking to say, look, you're getting more than that, because I want to make sure, when I get to the point where, if I am so blessed to have, 100, 200, 300, whatever employees, I don't want them paying for their health insurance. I want them going to the gym. I want them being healthy. I want all of that. Why? Because if they're not sick, then they're able to work and be productive. Yep. And that's what I want. So that to me is a much better model, and showing empathy for your employees, right? The wage, yeah, you know what? It sucks. Sometimes there's going to be people that have to work multiple jobs. I did. I didn't want to live with my parents. So I worked 2 jobs.
Well, right. And see, I would submit that, like a lot of social issues, we conflate the problem with something that is abstracted, right? And so in that instance, the reason you have to have 2 jobs, the solution isn't a higher minimum wage, because that's not the root cause of the problem for you. It's a different substrate completely. And this is why some version of a universal income is, to me, a good alternative to minimum wage. Minimum wage doesn't solve problems. And anything, it makes you a wage slave, because it's just enough, but it doesn't allow you to escalate that, right? You're stuck in that position. And that's the thing people don't understand about this. It's like my argument about privacy. You can disagree with me, fair play, right? But understand, I'm arguing from a place where I want our society to be better. I don't want you to be taken advantage of. I don't think your data should be sold and us not profit from it. Quite the opposite. And I think that's the argument against minimum wage. I want everybody to be able to earn more without the risk of losing the ability to buy food. When I moved to LA to go to film school, and then I started working in film, often for years, I had a choice.
And exactly what kind of film industry were you working in?
I translated German comics to English for a pre-production studio that specialized in turning comic books into movies. Our most famous film was
German
Men in
comics.
Black. Our most famous film was Men in Black.
Nice.
Not any derivatives or parodies thereof. Anyway,
I'm not judging.
hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do, bro.
Right.
I'm not talking about the tattoo studio. I'm talking about the production studio.
Hey, I was just wondering what kind of film you were in LA. All right. So as you're going through that, all right, and we're talking about, a universal income, or what I like to think is, how we're going to subsidize a living wage.
Sure.
There is, in my opinion, one thing and one thing only Karl Marx got right, which I'm not sure if it was by accident or intentional, just because everything else Karl Marx wrote is garbage to me. But there's one thing the one thing that he agrees that I agree with him on.
Can I guess?
Exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
Religion is the opiate of the masses.
No, it wasn't it. That the best way to deal with wage issues, revenue issues, is full employment in society.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Okay,
without a doubt.
And if our goal is 100% employment, that means people are going to attain and better the skill sets that are necessary for them to make more over time. And if the government, which I've read certain studies that has shown that the government would save millions upon millions of dollars in what they're doing right now with welfare subsidies, and then if they subsidize a living wage while their people are working, and that delta, whatever that delta is, right? There definitely has to be, I believe, a floor, but in terms of, there should be something that employers have to do. But I think in many cases, just like our tax system, it should be scaled based upon either revenue of the company or employees, or a combination thereof, because the smaller the business owner, the less wiggle room they have. A company like IBM that's got something like 200,000 employees, or whatever that number is, I'm completely making it up, it's just a large number, they can afford more, and I'm okay with that scale.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's plenty of science to substantiate, at least on certain scales of population. This is where to me, a lot of what I think and argue revolves around this being at the state level, not the federal level.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't necessarily mean that in a libertarian sense. I mean that just in a pure scientific, that's the size of the population this stuff operates at maximally.
It's easier to manage.
It's just the right size, man, which is another argument why states like California ought to break up. It'd be in their best interest to in the long term. But nonetheless, when you look at what correlates positively with desirable outcomes, it's almost always inclusive of income. Income is one of those things that continues to show up in just about every positive outcome you can measure. It's unavoidable, because whether people want to admit it or not, it's not happiness. It's that income buys you opportunities. And if you don't have that income, you don't necessarily have the ability to recognize opportunity. What I was going to say about living in LA in the beginning, for a long time, man, and this is just a statement of fact, I had to make a decision. Do I want the bread or do I want the bologna? Because I can only afford one or the other. That's it.
Is that why you've gone gluten-free?
That's why I raise my own chickens, because now I don't care about the system anymore. I'm outside of the system, which is always the best thing to do, is just escape the hierarchy altogether. Okay. And so at that level, to put it into a sociological scientific standpoint, you're stuck on like tier 1 and 2 of Maslow's hierarchy. So you can't get to a point where you're doing anything of a higher order. I want a society where that never happens for anybody.
Which?
That they're stuck on the first 2 tiers, where they have to worry about where are they sleeping and how are they eating.
Got it. I just wanted to make sure we clarify. You're looking to make sure that people are their basic necessities are being taken care of, so we can ascend to a higher degree of thinking.
That's right.
Because that's the only way we're getting out of this universe, and whatever it is, millions of years when the sun's going to die. whatever that is.
Billions. But that's the only way you're going to conquer big issues is you need a big workforce working on hard problems, right? And just name any big problem. It doesn't matter. Now, look, man, I'm not being purely utopian in that sense. I recognize that not everybody can ratchet up to that. Okay. But we want as many people as possible into those higher order brackets in Maslow's hierarchy. It's like the top 3 or 4 steps. You can't do that when you're worried about where you're eating. You can't do that when you can't sleep because you don't have a bed. It's impossible.
But what level? So we got some basic necessities, but then we get to the point of what I believe to be choice.
Mm-hmm.
Of I want to be vegan, I want to be vegetarian, I want to be on the carnivore diet, or fast food, or any of these combinations in between. They all have a price associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So well, I mean, it certainly takes us a little bit of a tangent, but I kind of where I was going was that, while we are all afforded equal opportunity, we are not afforded equal outcome.
Nor should we ever be. Boy, is that a dangerous situation. Whew.
It would be boring.
It's disastrous.
Yes.
It's disastrous.
100% disastrous.
History shows you what happens when you try to have equal outcomes across population stratas.
Right. And so I think in some case, to me, in 100% full transparency, I think fast food, that the current nutritional value of fast food being practically, garbage, should be outlawed. Like, why is that okay? But you need to be now 21 in most states to smoke a cigarette. Like, I'm not sure if there's a difference between someone eating fast food every day or smoking a cigarette every day, in terms of what it does to your overall health.
Right.
So,
right. I agree.
Yeah. So and this is, since I don't know what it was, 3 weeks ago, maybe, or maybe it was 2 weeks. I don't remember. Whenever I made the statement that, if we're going to ban things like Parler, then why aren't we banning the McDonald's app and other fast food apps? Because they contribute to obesity, and obesity kills, 300 some thousand people a year, every year. Right. And really, and part of that, in trying to continue that argument, I found the amount of, we'll say, poor business practices, or morally frowned upon business practices, where the industry colludes to make lower priced items on the menu be highly addictive, and then you're going to pay for the higher quality items. Like, why does the garbage, double cheeseburger cost more than a salad at these places?
Well, if you look at the distribution of fast food, let's pick on McDonald's because they're the most numerous and they're most profitable. They're also the most tech innovative. Where are they all at? Where are they all at? Dude, everywhere. They ain't in 6-7 figure suburbia.
No,
they're not.
That's Starbucks territory.
I did live in Southern California.
Yeah.
Right? They're in largely economically depressed areas. And the reason they can be there is because the beef they buy is subsidized by corn. Right? And so you were a manager, this, right? There's only certain things you can control for your margins at fast food, one of which is labor. You cannot control the price of your inventory. And you have to manage that the margins are so slim. People don't understand, dude. Your soda machine is better calibrated.
Right. And this is a big thing that I think people don't understand. Those industries are like Walmart. They make their money in volume, not in margin. And so, and tying this back to leadership in the wage, everything comes back down to, as a leader, is to how we are being and showing empathy to the people that we work with. I don't think any good leader wants to pay someone so low that they are forced to worry about what kind of food am I eating. I mean, in terms of low quality, right? Let's say average quality. Like, I want someone to be able to say, you know what? I need to be able to eat organic eggs. And the protein is for most adults, they need 2 eggs a day, and that's a complete protein, and they're done, right? But that means, I mean, organic eggs aren't cheap. When you take a look at the difference between, a dozen organic eggs and the not, I mean, it's 100% difference in price.
Yeah, it is.
So, I would,
yes, it is.
right. There are some things that, maybe they should or shouldn't do. And we can, I'm not really looking at debating that. What I don't want is someone to have to eat garbage food like McDonald's every day, because they're not going to be a productive employee. They're not going to be able to fire on all cylinders. It affects their memory. It affects their retainment. It affects their future trainability on new things. It affects their health. It affects how often they're going to be at work. It affects so many things that they will never be able to be a productive employee if they're saying, I only thing I can afford is to eat at McDonald's.
How about this? Prenatally, it epigenetically determines your long-term earning potential.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It absolutely does. The science is sound on this. And so, right, this is the argument. For our knowledge worker audience, let's put it in a different context, which to me is the analogy. Do you want as a leader to profess to your team that their role is to perform to the standard, no more? No leader's going to say that, dude, because a standard by definition is the bare minimum that's acceptable.
Right. And this gets back into that subsidy aspect that I think state and federal governments need to play into this, right? Because in many ways, we need those, we'll say, lower level employees to hopefully they're going to be better tomorrow. Now, what percentage is going to stay only capable of that minimum standard? In many instances, I would argue, especially when I take a look at how many people are currently making minimum wage today, something I read recently, and someone could always correct me because I'm going off of memory at this moment, it's less than 1% of the workforce that are directly making minimum wage today. Mm-hmm. But it's a higher percentage, and I don't remember what, that's making less than $15 an hour. So that means that there's a degree of where people are at on this spectrum. So I believe very few people will ever stay at $7 an hour or whatever the federal minimum wage is, because they're going to get better. Now, with that, at less than 1%, so the various governments, state, local, federal, are kicking in somewhere around the next, $8 an hour. I think that's far better because that person is working and maybe they will become a better worker, but less than 1% is going to, stay at that low end. That means everyone else is going to be high. So in my mind, this is the crab argument. The reason why in Maryland we don't have to put a lid on the crab pot, because when one crab starts to escape, we pull them all back down. So to me, I want these crabs to escape. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. And guess what? You that are not, for whatever reason, capable or choose not to do anything more than your 40 hours and get the subsidies, and therefore you don't get more things to do, at least your basic needs were met, and it's still cheaper on our tax burden, our general welfare burden as a country, than it is if we just let it go in the current system.
See, and that's fundamentally what the problem I have with the Democratic agenda is. Our social systems are an abysmal failure. They actually don't help people that need help. They don't. And sometimes the argument from people I encounter, at least in the Southeast, is, and I'm sure I would guess that this is common around the country. Well, if you provide social benefits, people are going to take advantage of it. Well, yeah, of course there are. Of course there's going to be. And the larger and the more prosperous our society becomes, that number is going to scale with it. But guess what? I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that if they had the ability to climb that hierarchy, they will. Those are the people I'm interested in.
It's called strength building, folks. Like,
that's right.
Double and triple down on the people's strengths, and those and strengths in this case are also the population. If those are the people that are thinking and then building and want more, you build upon them. You invest in them. You don't spend time on your and the science on this is very clear. Okay, like if you spend all of your time with your high performers, you will double production. Like literally, you don't spend time on your weakest people.
Yeah.
It's up to them to choose. I mean, they're always going to be there, but that's why I just go, it's less than 1%.
Right.
Well, that part's easy to figure out. When we, as a society, we go, but we need to make sure that the less can have more. Well, I think what you're doing there is, and you're literally trying to bring down the top down, and rather than how do we raise people up?
That's the extreme. That's the extreme left agenda.
Yeah,
this is the equivalent. One of the things that I have a pet peeve about is
cybersecurity as an immune system.
Oh Jesus, yes, that's up there. This is a personal one. I have a very aggressive mindset and I have a very aggressive schedule and I get shit done, right? And sometimes people will say to me, well, I wish I had time to do that. Well, I mean, we all have time. We all have 24 hours in the day. It's equal. You have equal opportunity. Why aren't you doing it? Don't pull me down out of the crab pot because I know how to manage my time effectively. That's what this comes down to. And so here's the bigger problem that people don't want to talk about in this case because it's a complex issue. Forget about paying somebody $15 an hour to do a job. What are you going to do when they don't have the IQ to do it? Listen, IQ is fixed. You can't argue with it. The science is sound and we've known how to measure it for a long time and it's stable. Try to get somebody that has an IQ of 100, which is average, to work at Starbucks right now with that POS system. Good luck. It ain't going to happen. We're too technologically advanced for that to happen. But we have those people. What are you going to do with them?
Dude, what you mean Siri isn't integrated into Starbucks' POS yet?
You got to know what to ask it.
Venti caramel macchiato, coconut milk, no whip.
I get off on this, man. Seriously, now I'm going to go off on a tangent. You got me worked up. That's a big problem for society globally.
So, before you get into that, let me ask you this: two questions. Have you ever worked for minimum wage?
Yes.
I have never. Even when I umpired, per game, I made $20 a game as an umpire. At 16 years old, 2-hour games. It's $10 an hour. I've never worked minimum wage.
I cut roses on a rose farm. Boy, do I have stories from that place.
Yep. All right. Second question.
Yes.
Now I forget what the second question was. I should. This is why I got to write this stuff down as I come to. There was an epiphany I had as to what you were saying. But the first part was, have you ever worked minimum wage?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't. I wonder how many people out there have truly never worked minimum wage.
Well, see, let me give you an example. I have a sense that this is an argument from the left, the extreme left, and neither of us really care for extremism. And here's an example of it. I have a very intro level programming class this semester, and I adore it. I love it.
Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
I do, Yoda. And it's a lot of non-CS majors. So it's a very unique opportunity to talk to people and figure out how they think and approach problems. One of which is what does an A mean to you? Because I gave them their first quiz and I explained to them that the normal distribution of data suggests that most people in this class are going to end up with an average grade, which is a 70% somewhere, right? And dude, they collectively caked their pants. Like, I mean, in a way where I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like the bull's out of the cage. What? And so I asked them a very honest question. They gave me a very honest answer. I love my students. What does an A mean to you? Do you know what their answer was? Success. What? Somehow they've been programmed and self-programmed to believe if they don't get an A, they're not successful. And that, I think, is how people are arguing about minimum wage. As if it's not a certain dollar amount, somehow they don't fit into society at some strata. As if it's terminal, like you're stuck there. Dude, I worked for minimum wage. I don't make minimum wage now. Now, I don't make as much as I did when I was working for you.
Not everyone could be as a benevolent dictator as I am, but
hey, man, dude, I did pretty well, dude. I'm not complaining.
I pay people what I believe to be fair, right? Could they make more elsewhere? Absolutely, I'm sure of it. But are they going to have someone that's going to invest in them, like I have done, and I have a track record of doing, and we'll continue? Why? I don't sit there and do it for any other reason than I believe it to be the right thing to do, because as I help people get better, in return, I get better myself.
Funny enough, the one thing you and I have never argued about is compensation.
Yeah.
Well, because I know your mindset. I know how you approach it, and that's it. And so you can take it or leave it. It's very simple. It's not aggressive. It's not personal. It's business.
Yeah.
And in those moments, you can assess for yourself, just like I have and everybody else that's worked around you and for you. You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
But, I'll go back to this point. The bigger problem that the minimum wage argument misses is you're arguing for a minimum wage that is escalating past the ability of a significant part of the population to earn.
So here's another interesting thing that I read. Because the amount of people that want to say this is the living wage, how come in the United States, especially when there are other parts of the world that are able to be sufficient on less than $5,000 a year?
Right.
So there are many people in this world that are living well below what we as a, arguably the number one self-sustaining country in the world. We definitely are the number one consumer per capita. We are the number one consumer in the world. So perhaps we created our own monsters.
Well, for sure. For sure we did. This is one of the few but significant side effects of a free market capitalistic society. Is we fundamentally, at least in theory, don't know how to take care of somebody that is either at the low end or, dare I say, even outside that system. We're not good at it. And that for our long-term health is a problem.
It is, because, well, when as you mentioned, 100 IQ is average. Mm-hmm. And as we become a more developed society, average is not going to be able to do advanced things. Okay. And this is one of the, this is what I was going to get to, ever. Have you ever witnessed people making fun of the cashier because they couldn't, it was $14.92 and they wind up giving you, whatever to get back a $5 bill, right?
I have a very distinct memory of a very specific example. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a failure on them. That's a failure on us as a society, that we weren't able to teach this person what I would believe to be a basic skill. I'm not going to make fun of them for that. That's horrible, because we taught them to use a calculator. And so if they don't have a calculator right there, Because I would be willing to bet you if we gave that same person, the HPT whatever calculator that's graphing and all this stuff, I bet you they could do calculus on it, right?
The
Because they were taught,
TI-84.
yeah, they were taught how to do that, and they know how to use that thing.
There's a significant part of our population that's very quickly getting left behind, and that's a problem to our health.
Yeah, minimum wage isn't going to solve that.
No, it doesn't.
Matter of fact, it keeps it down. It literally holds us back as a society.
It 100% agree. This is why in the pre-show I was telling you, I read this study, came out late last week. I didn't read the whole thing, but I read enough of it to understand what they were arguing, and I understand what they were missing and how people are going to misinterpret it, more importantly, to our point here. There is a direct, significant positive correlation to the degree of, for every $1 increased historically in minimum wage, there is a 3% reduction in teenage pregnancy. Okay, well, that sounds great for a clickbait title, but what gets compounded into that?
You sound just like a democrat.
Dude, I'm reporting here, bro. I'm reporting here. I didn't do that study.
Wait, what kind of reporter are you? Are you Fox News, CNN?
I am the Dr. Ninja Pittman news, straight up. That's why I get to say expletives.
Unfiltered.
Yeah, exactly. He's well said. Well said, like the best beer.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, well, why would that be? No, dude, it's not the dollar. It's not the dollar driving that. It's what the dollar buys those people. This is what's crazy about minimum wage. To your point, I 100% agree. Minimum wage keeps people down. It does not raise you up. Because $1 per hour buys you so much advantage that you can have enough social trajectory to escape that. Primarily education.
And not necessarily formal education, right? We're talking about the acquiring of knowledge and being able to actuate it.
That's right. So for $1, that person isn't going to HPU. What they're doing is not having to decide between the bologna and the bread, which means they can read a book, right? Because they're not hungry and they can actually focus. The science substantiates this, man.
Yeah.
That's what that does. And listen, I don't want to live in a society that says we're going to give you this, and it's just enough to keep you entangled into the bologna versus bread conversation. I need you freed up to read books, to ask hard questions, and come up with possible answers. That's what I want. That's why I categorically think minimum wage is a bad idea at this point.
Yeah, I 100%. It's the same reason why I'm against unions. We have enough in this society today to do away with all of it. And I think it just holds us back from getting there. And here's another big reason why to me. Those things, unions and minimum wage, to me, that's the true definition of modern slavery. Because as you just mentioned, I've given you just enough to where you cannot escape.
That's right. That's right.
And that is, to me, the current greatest sin in America, is that we do more to keep our people down than what we do in order to help them ascend to the next level of society. And we can see this because in many, many ways, and actually, all right, first of all, many people do not understand that businesses, so when I say business, everything that is not for profit, right? So for-profit organizations, they only have one goal, one thing that they're looking to achieve, and that is to maximize stockholder value. Period. That's it. So if that's their only goal, then many poor leaders will utilize that goal to keep people oppressed.
Yeah.
They want to keep you down. Corporations, even small mom and pop companies, will do this as well. Will do everything they can to instill fear amongst their employees of change. And the biggest thing that people have anxiety about are job changes, moving, marriage, divorce.
Yep.
Right? Top 3 things. Top 3. So I want to make it fearful for you to change a job. Therefore, I can keep your wages, your compensation overall low. Well, completely wrong. Because if I'm doing that and I'm not investing in my employees to be better tomorrow than they were yesterday, then I am not evolving as a company. And eventually my competition will overtake me. Look at Studebaker. Look at, Betamax. Look at, the DVD player. Look at, why is there no gateway computers? The list goes on and on because they did everything they could to minimize wages, and that's just one part of the equation here, folks. I can compensate people in multiple ways in order to make them better. I can give you a total compensation and be like, that's all you're going to be your salary. You take care of everything else, which includes you making training better yourself. Or I can compartmentalize it, which is what humans do a better job with when it's compartmentalized, and say, here's your salary. Here's how much I'm doing for your health insurance. I want you to be healthy. Here's how much I'm investing in your continued education, whether that be formalized or through different training classes. I'm going to make sure you have, because I need you to be better tomorrow, because I need a better widget to compete with the next company that's trying to make a better widget as well, because that's a war out there and I need my people to be the best trained.
Well, and we've all experienced that psychological trick. That's exactly why used car salesmen try to get you to focus on the monthly price, not the total cost.
Yeah.
It's a trick, people. And if you don't know it, and if you, more importantly, don't have a moral problem with it, I'll go on the record and say you're a piece of shit.
I wish I could argue with you on this particular case, but I can't. Because it is. I've had the luxury of working for a really great guy here recently. It's involving me in a lot of real business decisions, and to see the healthcare costs.
It's dirty. It's dirty.
Yeah, and we're doing more and more things in order to help our people to live a better, healthy lifestyle. But what we found out over time, and this is the dirty thing out there, because I wonder, because we can't always compete with other companies in terms of salary, so we have to make a choice. Like if all of a sudden someone wants, they may be worth $100,000, but we're offering them 90 because of how much we're paying for their health insurance. But people don't take a look at the net, right? You got to take a look at the full equation here. It's, as you mentioned, the dollar amount is what essentially allows us to afford options.
That's right. That's right.
It's not your top revenue. It's what's your net.
Yep.
Focus on the net, people.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, while I will never be an employer like this, if you force artificial increases in wages, those employers that only 100% believe that they're in business for the goal of stockholder value and their compensation is tied to market cap and net income and things of that nature, they will find ways to screw with those people, such as, well, I don't have to offer you health insurance if you're less than 32 hours a week because you're no longer full time. So I'm gonna put it at 30 hours and I'm gonna float your 30 hours. So this way you're barely scraping by. You can't go and get another job because you could lose this one and that one. You're trapped. And if you think, because if you give people the option of what I just said, they will do it. And you're not going to be able to force them. They can say, fine, everything just went to part-time. And as a part-time employee, I don't have to offer you health insurance.
You saw that in the education segment.
Yeah.
There's certain education verticals where they're entirely adjunct driven. And that's why. That's exactly why those universities do it.
I don't have to give you benefits.
And they're almost, all those universities that are predominantly adjunct driven are almost de facto operating in a for-profit model. One of which we both have an affiliation with, whether we like it or not.
We still have not done our ceremonial burning of diplomas and effigy.
Somebody else that's dear to us left there today.
Left there?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Garima.
Oh, really? I thought she left a while ago. Well, good for her.
Yeah, hell yes, man. She's in a much better place now.
Yeah.
But
You know,
but that's the point is, okay, what's the worst case scenario? I raise minimum wage. You have to print money to compensate for that, right? Because that money ain't coming from nowhere. So you're driving up inflation, which means your dollar's worth less. What the fuck, dude? Like, did nobody study simple economics? I am not an economics major. I'm not a business person. You know me. I'm not.
dude,
I'm an
you just
inventor.
don't
I'm an
understand.
engineer.
You just don't understand.
Maybe I don't, dude. Maybe I don't. Maybe I stayed at a Holiday Inn. That doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Was that? But it was because it wasn't a Holiday Inn Express. If you had stayed at the Holiday Inn Express, you'd have known.
Oh,
But that's the
dude.
thing that I love when people tell me you just don't understand economics.
Really?
So, while I mean, economic theory has kind of proven like 100% of all economic forecasts have been wrong. Like 100%. Now, I mean, if we take it into the context of they say it's going to be this now, in reality, they go the probability of blah 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 happening is this. So they're never really right or wrong, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they
you're
always
right.
say they're right. But this is the part that I just love, especially today. And they're like, "Oh, you just don't get it." I went to the number 4 university in the country for my MBA. I had the best cohort that arguably with the best professors arguably in the country. It is the number 1 in leadership development in the country, and like number, I don't know, I think the last thing was like number 11 in the world. I know a little bit about economics. Am I an expert in economics? No, but I do know this: if you have a skill set that is in high demand and there is a low supply, you're going to make good money.
Yeah.
And for those people going, well, hey, I'm an essential worker and I don't seem to understand why I'm not making that much money. There's a big difference between essential worker and critical infrastructure.
That's right.
Okay. If you want to ensure that you're always going to make good money, be always employed, critical infrastructure. Figure out how to get there. And there's a lot. Because here's the big thing. If people can't eat, like food supply, if they can't move money, if they don't have utilities, if they don't have internet, there's probably a couple other things in
Right.
here. Critical infrastructure, which is under Homeland Presidential Directive, whatever, someone can look it up. That's where you want to work. While it will suck, but New York City has had to do this quite often. If the trash doesn't get picked up, we can still eat.
Yeah.
Okay. We can still surf the internet. You can still watch this show, subscribe. You can still do all those things. But
Hey,
look at the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor tells you all the different skill sets that are in desire right now.
I hate to do this to you, man, but keep talking for a minute. I got to step outside and take care of something. I'll be right back to you.
Unlike the Joe Rogan podcast, which we absolutely love, I can't just pause it because we're live streaming.
Well, fill time, dude. I need 30 seconds.
All right, gotcha. So while the ninja is off doing, I don't know, probably had to go see a man about a dog or something like that. And getting into this, when we focus on the future needs of our employees, I want there to be no restrictions on what companies can and can't do, within reason. When I say within reason, safety, we have plenty of safety government agencies at this particular point, which is why, workplace conditions should never really be an issue at this point. But because I believe the majority of people in business will absolutely do the wrong thing to benefit just themselves. And as an employer, I want that advantage because I want to get the best people that are out there to be able to do the right thing the right way 100% of the time.
Agreed.
Is a dog okay? I told
Listen,
everybody
man,
to say bad about a dog.
I'd like to tell everybody that my 6-year-old daughter wanted to hug before she went to bed, but the truth of the matter is I had a voodoo ranger and nature called. So that's the beauty of living in the country is I can just step outside my office and take care of business.
It's your it's your land, dude. Do whatever you want.
I mean, maybe a coyote saw me, but that's it.
It's your property. As far as I'm, you do what you want, right?
I mean, as far as you can see, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I agree, man. This is the thing that people really, I think, ought to think through is what are you asking for when you're asking for a minimum wage? Like, what do you mean by that? What do you want? I think what you want, maybe compassionately, empathetically, is for the disadvantaged, temporarily downtrodden, first coming into the workforce to be taken care of to a certain standard. And as a society, I agree with that. But I don't think saying $15 is the minimum wage.
Yeah, why not 16? Why not 20? Why not 50?
Why not 14? Like, it's arbitrary. Where does it stop? Because that's not what you're arguing about. You're not actually arguing about taking care of people. I'm being honest and sincere. I think you're virtue signaling and you're trying to act as if you care about those people. You don't, dude. You don't. Let's be honest.
I do. Those people don't.
Yeah. Well, that's who I'm talking to.
Don't lump me into those democrats.
That's right.
But here's the thing. In reality, it comes down to this. When you take a look at any given situation, when it comes to compensation, we have 3 competing elements. You have economics, accounting, and finance. They are all right and they are all wrong. Okay? Mm-hmm. Because they all kind of count. You need all of them, right? Economic theory is going to what was the word? It's going to influence the financial side, and the financial side is going to influence the accounting side, and the accounting side is eventually, because that is what's already happened. So as that, we know what's happened, that's going to then influence future economic theories. They all are intertwined.
Right.
Which one is right? Well, they all can be, but none of them can be right at the exact same time.
That's right. Well, and I'll give the audience a poignant example. I'm doing some really aggressive research, and that takes high-functioning people. But because of federal student aid laws, I cannot pay any student for any reason less than or more than X. And so if you're a student and you know no matter what, you can only work 20 hours a week and earn X, why would you want to come do the hard work with me? Why wouldn't you want to go work in the library and just check books in and out?
Well, I can tell you that the reason why they should work for you, because I taught you well. Here's the real thing. Life is chess. It's not checkers, folks. Okay.
Nope.
Are you going to live for the dollar today and potentially short yourself $5 tomorrow?
That's right. Well said.
And I will equate this with one of my former interns, Skippy, who also wound up working for you. And I told him how much I was willing to pay him. And he comes back and he says, well, my friends got such and such here. And I said, look, I'll make you a deal. Okay. You can do one of 2 things, because I'm not paying you any more than what I just offered you. And you can take some time to think about this. You can accept my offer, and I can guarantee you within 2 years, you'll be making 80 grand. You'll almost double what you're making, what I'm offering right now in 2 years. Or you can go out, take a look at all the jobs that are on the market today, and any employer that you wish to go, I'm pretty sure I probably connected with, I'll make you that introduction, and you got to win that job. But if you choose that option, I'm nobody's second choice. It's your choice. Now, funny enough, for those listening out there in YouTube or Facebook or Twitch land, he accepted my offer. The company, which was a startup, we went under. I helped Skippy get a job elsewhere. And it was almost 2 years to the day where I started working for a different employer. And I called Skippy up and said, hey, got a job for you. Because I knew how much he was making at the next employer. And so what I was offering him was more. And he goes through the process. So I had to go through stuff, interview with people, blah, 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 blah. He got the job. And he goes, all right, well, what's the pay? I'm like, 80 grand. I promised you 80 grand in 2 years. You got your 80 grand. Now, and here's the moral of the story here, boys and girls. What he was originally asking for was like 60, and it was going to be for a government contractor. And I'm like, dude, I can't pay you 60. I can only pay you 50. I'm like, but here's the thing. You're going to be stuck in a one-trick pony type job because as a government contractor, you're only permitted to do what's exactly in that billet. You don't get to do more. If you do, you have to go to a different billet, so to speak. And there may absolutely be some circumstances where that's not true, but it's by and large, that's kind of the way it is. I said, and then they're going to give you 2.5% to 3% raise per year. And so it will take you how many years to go from 60 to 80? I'm telling you, I can pay you 50 now, and I'm going to invest in your future. And you're going to have access to like my entire, LinkedIn, connections here. I'll introduce you to more people in that 2 years than you would ever get working for one of those government contractors, and you'll make 80 grand. And you'll do it in 2 years. In 2 years, because you would get 3%, 3%, which so people know it's not compounded. It's a little bit higher than 6% over that. But even still, you're not going to be at 80. I'm telling you, you're going to take a $10,000 haircut today, but in 2 years, you're going to make an additional $15,000 than what you would have by working for that government contractor. Which one do you take?
Right.
Now, I don't believe that there are many people out there that provide that same type of deal that I do to the people that work for me.
I would agree 100%. Well, see, and this is the other thing people need to factor into it is opportunity cost. And this is the thing, right? You have to account for the probability that you're going to be associating with people that either you're going to work for in the future, or maybe, I'm here to tell you, it's happened to me, are going to end up working for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes learning how to manage those social networks actually is compensation.
Oh, 100% it is. I mean, it's all about, like, look, dude, I just paid like $170,000 to do an MBA at University of Michigan. Why? To be associated with University of Michigan and people who are on the trajectory up. It is who's in your network. That network is worth a hell of a lot more to me than 170 grand.
Yeah, right. Well, and this is the thing about that $1 in that calculation, right? Life is pay to win.
Yeah. And
one way or the other, it's not just money. It's not greenbacks. It's blood, sweat, and tears too. And all of the above, all inclusive. If you don't want to be that crab getting grabbed and drugged down, you have to figure out how to escape that velocity. There's different ways to do it.
So,
but and you know this, if nothing else from doing a dissertation, nothing is gained without sacrifice.
Yeah, I know that. So speaking of that, since we both went to a particular university to get our doctorate, in our time as a student, how many people do you talk to on a even mildly consistent basis that we were connected with as a student?
One.
Same.
Yeah. You?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I wonder what the difference is between that versus me doing my MBA at Michigan, which was we all met once a month and we had some projects to do in between those times, versus how we did it with our doctorate program at Cap Tech, as to why, when we're talking about people achieving a degree that less than 1% of the world achieves a terminal degree, why did we not have that same camaraderie, so to speak? And I wonder if our cohort was different based on others.
Yes, that's true. The cohort itself was materially different than later cohorts, and I've observed that with some of the other people, because I was in the unique position to stay there and continue to mentor people.
Right.
But I would argue that the very nature of the mission is substantially different, right? There's no way out of it, right? The only way you're getting a doctorate, despite how well you perform in classes, is to write that document, which is largely a solo effort, and defend it orally, which is entirely a solo effort. That's not the nature of an MBA. It's just not.
Fair point. It's a very fair point. That's kind of where my question reminds me of what my second question to you was going to be.
Oh yeah. What was it?
In your whole collegiate career, how often did you have a 4.0 GPA?
Oh Jesus! In my collegiate career?
Yeah, entire college, from undergrad to doctorate.
I don't think I ever had a 4. Now listen, so I'll give you the whole trajectory. High school was exceedingly easy for me. I had a 4.5 out of a 4 because I had weighted. We didn't have AP classes as they're known now, but I had weighted classes where grades were worth more points. And so in high school, I had a 4.5. Dude, I never did homework. I never studied. I never did anything. It was just really easy for me. In undergrad, I don't think I ever had a 4.0. I had a high 3.5. I'd have to look at my transcripts.
I'm not holding you to it.
Yeah, I never had a 4. I know that. I had a perfect 4 throughout my master's, and for what it's worth, I had a perfect 4. Well, fuck you and everybody else. I was the first one to earn that degree in the world, so fuck it.
Right.
Honestly.
So and I have a point to all this, and also so for me in high school, I did, which was every single class I had was absolutely easy, but all I cared about was sports, and so I basically fucked around, did the bare minimum that allowed me to play sports based on my parents' requirements, not the county's. So eventually I go to a junior college. It's basically a trade school called the Computer Learning Center. And I had a 4.0. It was easy. It was all technology. It was learning Novell server operating systems and basically, NT 4.0 Microsoft environment, workstation server. So full MCSE type path, as well as the CNE. Which is the Novell equivalent to the MCSE at the time. 7 months, 5 days a week, from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday for like 9 months. The only person at that time, and as far as I know ever, to graduate with a 4.0. Like, it was hard. But I did. Then we go to my undergrad at Strayer. I had like a 3.7. Masters 3.5, doctorate like 3.5, MBA like a 3.4, 3.5, something like that. Why? And this is kind of the moral of the story. I had to make a choice. How much is it more important for me to have the knowledge or to do the homework?
Right. Yeah. Well, see, go ahead.
And this is why the probability of me hiring a 4.0 student that could not also show me that they had extracurricular activities and are well-rounded, very low. You show me a 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, even a 3.0 type person that had a bunch of extracurriculars, were working and did this and this and this, and they got a 3.0, sign me up, because if I can pay them well enough to where they can only focus on one thing and not have to worry about those other jobs and stuff like that, I'm going to outperform you. My team will outperform your team every day of the week.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and GPA for me was always just a byproduct of doing what I found interesting. I've just always liked the academic environment. But I think that's also the difference between a doctorate and not a master's, but particularly an MBA. Like, if you're spending any time past just passing those classes in a doctorate, you're not working on your research, which is really what is required to pass. The mission is just fundamentally different. So this is why at High Point, we get a very high quality of student, to the point where coming up soon, I have to do these interviews again. It always happens in the spring, where we interview students that are coming to High Point, but now they're interviewing to get a scholarship on top of scholarships, which could include a full ride. I've interviewed, I think the 6 or 8 people I've interviewed, at least 4 of them have had perfect SATs. Fucking perfect scores.
What'd you have on your SATs?
I didn't take an SAT. I took an ACT.
Oh, so I didn't do the ACTs. I did the SAT. I had a 13.
Well, because growing up where I grew up in Northeast Ohio, what I was told was if you weren't going to school out of state, you take the ACT. If you were going out of state, you took an SAT. And I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't, and I'm not, this isn't me being a victim. It's just a statement of fact. I was the only person in my family to ever go to college. I had no guidance. So I just did what I thought made sense based on what somebody told me. Fuck it. It got me to where I'm at. I'm not complaining. My point of this is why when I do these interviews, my first question, listen, if you're watching this right now and I'm interviewing you in February, this is my first question. Your phone rings, it's 3 a.m, and somebody you trust tells you it's the zombie apocalypse. What are your first 10 steps and who are you taking with you?
Well, first thing that I'm doing, where are you?
See?
Right? Because if those people are like thousands of miles away, then I know I have a little bit of time. Because they just saw the zombies and I haven't got a phone call from anyone else. So, like, if you called me, I'm like, well, dude, you're in North Carolina, you're on the coast, I've got some time. I could prepare.
Yeah. I don't want your pre-rehearsed, pre-canned responses. I want to know how you react to a behavioral situation, because that tells me who you are.
Right. And this gets into a big thing. And you're very much the same way. If you called me and said, hey, Dan, I need your help. I need a favor. I'm like, or whatever it is. My question is, what do you need? It's typically, are you okay? What's, where are you? Like, it doesn't matter what your request is, because I'm going to help regardless. It is, I'm trying to determine, is this life or death? Like, do I need to get on a plane or get in a car and come help one of my, good friends and brothers in arms here to go to whatever it is? Or is this just like, oh, no. Hey, look, I just, I need a referral. Okay. Completely. But it's not, what do you need? All right. And here's a news flash here, folks. If you call someone and say, hey, I need your help, and they say, what do you need? They're not a good friend.
Amen.
Their first thing should be asking, are you okay? Do is this something I need to, like, they're not, like, they should already know what, without a shadow of a doubt, you're going to help them. They just need to know if you're safe first. Right. If they say, what do you need? Then then that means they're going to then negotiate in their mind whether or not it's worth their time. That means they're not a good friend.
No, right. Right. That's why I always respond to you if I can't pick up the phone. Is this urgent or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it is, I'm dropping what I'm doing and I'm dealing with it. If it's not, well, I'll call you when I'm done with class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah. And for the record, I think TK's that way. I think Ian and his heart is that way.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Right. And it's without a shadow of a doubt. So, this is why, and this is like a big thing. Like I and TK and I talked about this on Sunday. if you're this is an intel trick here, folks. So those of you watching, you want to know who's really important to you in your life, then do this. You can take a look at your social media and your phone, specifically phone calls, text messages, whatever social media interactions that you've got. The people that matter, or the people that you are sending messages to and and they only respond periodically, you're not important to them. People that send messages to you and you don't respond to them, appropriately, they're not important to you. People that you have almost an equal amount of two-way communication with, those are the people in your life that matter.
Yep. Amen.
And outside of that, act accordingly.
That's right. That's right.
So if you want to
know what you're dealing with,
Right. Now, from an intel perspective, this is where this comes in handy. If you're a known bad actor and you're having a lot of two-way communications with people, those two-way communications are also bad actors.
Yeah.
That's how we figure out the cells.
Cells within cells, interlinked. Speaking of interlinked, I got to ask a question, man.
Yeah.
Have you watched that movie Tenet?
No.
Oh, dude. Oh my God, dude. I had to stop it. I couldn't take it. This is too fucked up for me.
So I have heard too many things just like that, and people go, "Oh my gosh, this is good," and I'm going, "All right." The people who are telling me this is really bad, this gets back into my two-way communication stuff. I kind of trust them a little bit more than these other ones. I have one friend that asked if they could get their money back.
Well, I'm not going to talk about money in this case, but I will tell you that I'm like, Inception, perfectly done, dude. Perfectly done. Interstellar, perfectly done. This is almost like if I deliver. Okay, I've been around a lot of people that think in academia their mission is to make shit as hard as they can just for fuck it, they're sadists. That's how that movie felt.
Wait, would you equate encrypting someone's midterm and final exam with all of which the key had to be their group mates PGP IDs, and if someone didn't actually happen to do the PGP assignment, then someone couldn't actually decrypt the midterm or final?
I reject the question because I think as a society we should immediately stop encrypting everything. It's a bad idea, people. It's a bad idea.
So funny enough, when you as you speak that, so 2 Sundays ago, when all this nonsense going down about Parler going away, I said, you people do not understand. They're going to move to secure messaging apps. They will be group chats. You will lose all capability of seeing who the crazies are. Guess what came out? Guess what came out? That exact report. Okay. You push people underground, you're going to have secret societies, more so than, the one you belong to, Ninja. They will go underground, and it will be extremely challenging to figure out what kind of intel people can get. You want the crazy people out there saying the nonsense that they were saying. Okay.
Yes.
You want it. Why? It's the same reason that we learn when we first start driving. If a person appears to be intoxicated, keep them in front of you. Because then you're not going to get into the accident. You see what they're doing. You get the break. Right. That is exactly what it's like with the people that are doing all of the nonsensical things that are occurring in our country today. Keep those people in front of you. Don't speed past them. Wait till your exit and get off, because that person's going to keep on going, and you're safe. You get in front of them, they might hit you.
That's right. Or you're going to speed past them, and you're the asshole that's going to get caught for speeding.
Yeah, yeah. So keep those things in mind. Like this is. Oh, we can't tolerate this. Well, at what point in time are you going to be on the other side of that conversation where someone's saying, we don't tolerate you? Like
That's right.
the Idaho internet service provider that has blocked Facebook and Twitter.
That's the problem with intersectionality. It's never ending in how you can section things. That's by definition the problem with it, man. There's always an exception to the rule. That's a problem with exceptions. That's why you can't normalize that. No path forward is shrouded in darkness.
Can't be by its definition, right?
Right.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to move forward.
Well, you don't know where the hell you're at. Exactly. Like, where are you going, dude?
It's called situational awareness.
That's right. Amen.
Well, my friend, I know you have an early class tomorrow.
Yeah, I do intro to information security. We're talking about access controls.
Which is, for those that don't know, that is largely, if not the most important thing in any information system. Because there's this principle called least privilege. You're only supposed to have the minimum amount of privileges necessary to complete your job fully.
No more, no less.
Right? For a little bit of a pro tip out there for the people, your company can only get truly hacked if someone gave the bad actor permission to allow them to be compromised. That's like clicking on a link.
Yeah.
Right? They downloaded something. Yeah. That's access control. If they didn't have the access to be able to do that, the bad actor gets nothing. Nada. Zilch.
Yep.
It's also the most difficult thing to maintain. Because in an employer, people are moving from one position to another quite often in many cases. And
this is why modern operating systems, as you know, in directory services, introduce the concept of a role-based group. Perfect. If you're an accountant, you get that, no more, no less. I don't care who you are in terms of the infrastructure. You're an accountant. You get accountant permissions and privileges and access controls.
All right. So I'm the CIO of a relatively large financial institution. How many privileges do you think I have on systems?
Wait, how many do I think you have, or how many should you have?
Both.
You probably have more than you should, given my experience with most organizations. You should have very little. You should probably have marginally more than the security team, but not much more than that.
I have nothing more than a general user on basically less than the majority of systems. Yep. On all critical assets, I have 0. I don't even have basic, like to our core, banking application. I don't even have an account.
No, hell no.
I got nothing.
You shouldn't.
Absolutely. I definitely shouldn't. My job, because that's about, and people are like, I can't believe you don't have this. I can't believe it. I'm like, I don't need it. I'm delegating this out to people who are experts in those areas. I just need the report. Guess what? They've automated the report to where it gets put into a particular shared location. I get to go there and read the report.
Yeah, you need your business dashboard and email and maybe a browser. That's about it, dude.
And that's why I use a Chromebook, dude.
That's it. Amen.
I got email. I got Teams. I got SharePoint, which is basically just a network file share, but done in a more cloud-like environment at this point. Got nothing.
No.
Why? Because I'm very likely to be targeted, and so
that's right.
In the event that I have some type of brain fart, you got nothing.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fire up Firefox and look at the stock market. Not my portfolio. Dude, I love High Point. There's so many students that are investors. And like this morning, man, in class, this dude's looking at his dashboard. It's just like a red line straight down.
Okay. All right. So that's why I would seriously want to have a conversation with this kid. When every single tech stock is up, what the hell is he investing in that it's down?
Dude,
do you remember? You remember. So it's been a little bit over a year. I told everyone right around this time last year, invest in BJ restaurants.
Yeah.
Guess what that shit's trading at today?
Yeah, man.
When I bought that, it was at, I shit you not, $8. Okay, $8 a share when I bought this stuff a year ago. It was roughly $8. Okay, someone can certainly check that. It's very easily seen, but that shit today, I think it closed at like 48.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check.
I love it. This is my personality. You know me very well, but for the audience, Mrs. Pittman and I just bought a business, and to do that, we had to move some assets around and liquidate a couple things. And in the course of that, I was like, well, shit, man, it's almost spring, so I might as well look at my portfolios. And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm killing it. I'm like 2 years in a row, I'm like 40% up, okay, which is huge, right? I'm like, I should get more aggressive. I look at my distribution, and it's like at max aggression.
Yeah.
And you've met Mrs. Pittman. Her attitude is completely different. She's like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, I'm very aware. All right. So,
I got 2 speeds, off and on.
Exactly. All right. So it's at 47.35. And a year ago, I've had a lot of transactions.
Hey, well,
I
you're
bought
busy.
it at $8. I bought it at $8.88. All right. So
Yeah.
I knew it was around $8. I told everyone a year ago, buy BJ restaurants.
Yep,
Nostradamus.
that's right. The original Mystic Mac. I'm stoked for that fight this weekend, man. We'll finish with this. I'm stoked. It'll be the first fight, and I don't know how long that I'm actually, well, I'm not. I'm going over to the neighbors, Marsha's family, and we're going to watch it. They have a new basement entertainment center.
I'm worried about this fight. I'll tell you why.
Hit me.
He finishes it too soon. And no one will know whether or not he's really back, or did he just catch a guy that's been pummeled too many times in the last several fights. Okay.
That is well known for taking upwards of 2 minutes to get rolling. Right? I mean, Dustin Poirier is well known to take 90 to 120 seconds to actually get warmed up, which is normal. You usually have that first round being a feel out period.
And the reason why I'm saying it like this, okay? So, and this is a bad thing for Connor, in that I'm wondering if he also believes this and then falls into the trap of Sun Tzu, which says never spar with a weaker opponent. Remove them from the battlefield immediately. But I think he wants to kind of, especially after watching Max Holloway, which I don't know how his opponent did not go down. That dude hit him with everything. Like, he barely was missing those liver shots. If you've never been hit in the liver, count yourself lucky.
That's an instant off switch.
Your body just goes into full on.
Yep.
FU.
It just shuts off.
It does.
You hit that vagus nerve, it shuts off.
And during that last round, Max Holloway goes, "I'm the best boxer," and he turns.
He's yelling at the corner
sideways and still matrixing it out there, right? And then Connor replies, "Really?" Or something along those lines. Like, no. All right. Because by and far, he's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. His timing is impeccable. And if I'm going to have one attribute, timing is what I want. And so what I'm wondering, is this an Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman. When
he got caught goofing.
Does he try to prolong it to put on a show to antagonize Nurmagomedov to come out and fight him again? So, Connor, and I know you're watching, I know you're listening, don't chase Nurmagomedov. Destroy Poirier as soon as you possibly can and fight again. Because regardless, when you win, you're fighting for the title the next fight. And it will be in may if you come out unscathed.
Yeah.
Either it's against Nurmagomedov, it's against Gaethje, maybe it's against depending on, because what's the dude's name that just got signed by the UFC who's fighting this weekend as well?
Right. It's Dan Hooker. Man, what's the other guy's name?
It's the other guy.
Chandler.
Yeah, Mike Chandler, right? So Mike Chandler, basically, who was a superstar in the other organization. If Chandler wins and Conor wins, that's the fight I believe the UFC makes in May for the title.
It's a good fight.
I think Gaethje is he lost all momentum with that Nurmagomedov. He was a wrestler, and Nurmagomedov made him look foolish. Like that was, I mean, look, and this is why, for those that are out there that love UFC, I'm not a big fan of Nurmagomedov because he's a one-trick pony.
Well, in this estimation, Conor had an interview today. It might have been tomorrow, yesterday, given the time change, where he talked very explicitly about more detail about now understanding, which his fight IQ is high because you saw what he did with Nate Diaz in the second fight versus the first fight. Understanding his entry points. He was very specific in his language. Understanding Khabib's entry points into his takedowns.
Look, so for these people that don't necessarily focus on all the nuances of UFC, let me tell you why. Not only did Conor do much better against Nate Diaz in the second fight, Nate Diaz is huge compared to Conor.
Oh,
huge.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not even close. Like Nate Diaz has to lose weight to make 170. Conor has to do nothing to be at 170. Okay. It's literally, to me, like, I think Conor's the best at 145. I know you think he does pretty well at 155, but at 145, there's not a 145er on this planet that can touch Conor. He's just, at that point, he's too big, he's too fast, he's too strong. At 155,
there's competition at 155. At 145, I might go far as to say he's the type of athlete that I don't know you could ever produce somebody like that again. It's very unique, like Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson like.
Yeah,
right?
100%. 100%. His timing is amazing. And
there's too much power at 145.
And Nate Diaz is phenomenal. Okay. He knocked Nate Diaz down, 6 times that fight? It was a lot. Like
the
Nate Diaz
it was a lot.
Like it was more times he got knocked down than almost all of Nate Diaz's fights. Nate Diaz the Diaz brothers, they could have been professional boxers. Their stand up is top notch, as well as their grappling.
And they're massive endurance athletes too, right? And so we talked about power last week to wrap this up. You saw what happened to Nate Diaz in that fight versus Masvidal, which is his next fight, right? I don't think he fought between those two, Conor 2 and then Masvidal. I mean, dude, he basically got put to sleep.
Because Masvidal is bigger than Nate, right? Masvidal should be a light heavyweight.
But there's something about that power, man, when you get hit. And this is why Conor, I don't think, ever gets touched at 145. 55 is competitive. 170 might be pushing it because now you're into bigger frames with bone structure that can absorb that kind of power. But at 145, there's no way you're getting hit with that left and surviving. It ain't going to happen, dude. It ain't going to happen.
No, it's not.
That is what's different about this fight, though, is the first one was at 45. This one's at 55.
Yeah, I think
10 pounds is a lot.
Yeah, Conor puts him to sleep. Look, this is a big thing. Like, so what people don't understand, Conor, it's not just his fight IQ is so high, which it is. It's also his resilience to be generationally transcendent, like Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. Okay. He lost that first fight against Nate Diaz. And what does he do? He goes to Portugal and he learns how to do like bike riding, not like a little bit, like we're talking way up there, Portugal racing team, all this kind of stuff. Like he is way out there because he realized he gassed out his endurance. And he's never needed endurance because he's hardly ever had to go to 5 rounds. I mean, he knocks people out. He touches you, you go to sleep.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Yeah, he lost Nurmagomedov, but he stopped Nurmagomedov's with takedowns more than anyone else has. Gaethje, who was a top NCAA wrestler, could not stop Nurmagomedov's takedowns. So
Right.
I believe, so after he lost, I guarantee you Conor's been basically doing nothing but training on takedown defense, and in the event that I get put on my back, how can I get back up? A la Chuck Liddell.
Yep. Well, and you can see his evolution. One of the big reasons why he gassed out in that first Diaz fights is because he was throwing too many shots. People don't understand if you've never boxed or done any kind of martial arts. When you throw strikes and they don't land, it actually expends an enormous amount of energy.
Yeah.
An enormous amount. And so look at the difference between Diaz 1 and his absolute schooling of Eddie Alvarez. Why did it take 2 rounds? Because he didn't chase the knockout. Listen, when you get stunned like that 2-3 times in a round, I don't care how long that break is. When you come back, you're still fucked up.
It's little micro brain injuries, okay?
Yeah.
If you get stunned, it's because the brain's rattled around. Okay.
Mhm.
Be methodical. And I think so. Here's my prediction. Conor knocks him out. Second round, less than 4 minutes. But it will be in the second round. I think it's the second round.
The first fight didn't get out of the first.
It didn't, but
They're both very different. Yeah.
I don't think Conor's a different fighter. Overall, I think that he is not going to look to gas.
Yeah. Well, you got to guard against that because as that fight goes later and later, Dustin is definitely a fighter that gets better. So if you're not going to tag him and knock him out within 60 seconds, you got to pace yourself.
Yeah, Conor knocks him down twice in the first round. He just doesn't finish him.
It's probably a lot like the Alvarez fight. I would agree with you. And that's about the timetable.
I think Alvarez and Poirier are pretty identical in my opinion.
They're brawlers.
Yeah. Alvarez is a better wrestler.
Yeah. Dustin has a couple good neck chokes.
Yeah.
But dude, listen, man, when you're fighting somebody that has that kind of death touch.
So who was it that so Max Holloway, I think, is just a great overall person.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him about Conor and Dustin. He goes, a shaved head Conor, better watch out.
That's right, dude. That's right. No funky cornrows. No fuck you pinstripe suits.
Oh, I love that.
That was the best.
I'm gonna get one of those. It's Austin McGregor, or is it McGregor? I think it's Austin McGregor is his clothing line.
I think so. Yeah, that's the tailor he picked up that he kind of promotes. Yeah, that's his clothing line.
Yeah. I hope
I agree with you.
Better whiskey.
I don't know, man.
He has made so much money from that.
Oh God, ungodly amounts.
I gotta be completely honest. If I ever had that amount, there's no way I would ever step into that UFC ring. Ever. Done.
Yeah, but let's be honest, that's also why we're not professional fighters.
But there's a mystique of the aspect of I would win the next belt and then walk away, because then people will always be talking about you forever. Right? It's the whole reason why many people think Floyd Mayweather is the best fighter of all time. And there's a strong case. He has beat more world champions at multiple weight classes than anyone else.
Yeah, well, Floyd Mayweather, that type of athlete is one of those people where you're like, okay, there's an argument, but I really got to think about who replaces him in top seed, right? Like, you really got to think about it.
Right. Now, and people could say, well, he ducked many people when those people were in their prime, and it wasn't. Like, Manny. Yeah, Manny Pacquiao, right? Ducked him. Um, hey, sometimes it's just matchups, but he did eventually fight him and he won.
Look, man, if you're in the situation where you can pick when you fight, like Miyamoto Musashi, I guess you have the advantage, don't you?
Hey, you know what? When you're the champ, you get to pick the time and the place. As a challenger, you just have to show up.
That's right.
When you're
That's why
at the
you
top,
come second.
yeah, exactly. So I think arguably Floyd Mayweather is it easily top 5. In my opinion, like people go, oh, Marciano. No, I don't know that I would even put Rocky Marciano, even in my top 5. Okay, from that perspective, Mike Tyson is definitely my top 5. Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray
George
Leonard,
Foreman,
George
Sugar Ray
Foreman,
Leonard,
right? And Floyd Mayweather. I mean, like you can make an argument for anything, but Floyd Mayweather has a really good argument in that multiple weight classes beat more champions than any other boxer of all time. Like that's just, and that's
Right.
that's what Conor wants. And for all those people, Conor was able to stand toe to toe with him, rocked him. He definitely shook Floyd. But at that point, Floyd went back to Money Mayweather. But if he was fighting as Pretty Boy Floyd, Conor beats him.
The first time I boxed, dude, I was lucky to make it to the second round. That shit's exhausting.
Yeah, it absolutely is. But people don't, for those that don't understand exactly what I'm saying, Pretty Boy Floyd went for the knockout.
Yeah.
Money Mayweather went for the don't touch me. And so in the beginning, Floyd was doing that little Pretty Boy Floyd with Conor, and Conor caught him. At that point, he went back into the Philly defense, what Mayweather talks about as being the Mayweather defense now because he perfected it. Then Conor couldn't do anything after that point.
No. And he still went 30 minutes.
Yep. 30 minutes, first professional boxing.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
That dude gets paid $100 million. Come on, man. If that's not the American dream, I don't know what is.
It certainly ain't $15 an hour, dude.
Hey, man.
Oh, all right, my friend. Well, we went a little bit over, but at least it's not 11:30.
Hey, man.
Always good to see you, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Always good to see you.
The new glasses are, well, to be honest, they look like shit.
Hey, man. What are you going to do? I need bifocals.
Dude, I got progressives, but it's the darker frames. I just feel like better. I just feel like
I wanted something different from once. What are you going to do?
What you just did.
Yeah.
They go well with your ear with the headphones.
Right? See, look, man.
You're color coordinated because almost everything looks blue. The shirt, the headphones, the glasses. You got to go back with the wizard beard.
Yeah, I do.
All right, my friend. Take care,
buddy.
I'll see you soon.
Yes, my friend. See everybody later. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.